Hello and welcome back to another video on the Calm Right YouTube channel. Today we're back with Glen. You all know him by now. For the 12th man, we're reviewing the game against Hibs from before the international break and previewing the game against Kilmarnock, as well as discussing things like Craig Bryson and the test event. But before we get into things, could I ask you to please like the video and hit subscribe if you're new here. It means a lot. Thank you very much and enjoy the video.
Right, welcome back. This is episode 3. Thanks to those of you that are continuing to support myself and Callum on this new venture of ours. Again, thanks for the feedback. We look to continue improving on things as we go into this week. Speaking of improving, Aberdeen continue to improve with a fine 1-0 victory over Hibs, which is now a couple of weekends ago. So, Callum, what was your thoughts on that win?
Well, I thought we just limited them extremely well. The threat like Martin Boyle and Dodge, they kept pretty quiet. It was very assured, just got a lead, okay, it's a penalty, and did what it needed to do to keep them out. It was a bit, I saw some unhappy people on Twitter about some of the style of football we've been playing, but and from other clubs, that is. But I've enjoyed it. We got the result, that's all that matters, and if it annoys some people along the way, even better. Good stuff. And Ross McCrory again, excellent. Oh, everything's great. Everything's great. No complaints from me.
I think that game was the first time I've seen the Aberdeen Twitter support being unanimous in
Oh,
joy. Normally there's contrast in opinions, but everyone had that overwhelming joy and seemed to agree on a lot of things. I think what you touched on there about the threat of Doyle and Deutsch, we nullified them excellently. And obviously, Agent Boyle, even he gave away the penalty for his hometown club, and that's
exactly.
3-3 for Lewis Ferguson, being first goal scorer in all those 3 games as well.
What a man. Yeah, that's a good point you raised, actually. Aberdeen Twitter is possibly the most divided
Yeah.
group of fans you've ever possibly seen. Like, you've got people, the ones who just, nothing ever goes right and the world's against them. And there's everyone who's just, everything's amazing and the
McInnes
sun
could
shines
never
out of
do
God's
anything
bum.
wrong, but no, it
Yeah.
was. I think McInnes. There are people that think McInnes can never do any wrong, but I think on Sunday McInnes got everything spot on,
Yeah.
even the changes. Although I wasn't sure if I agreed with them at the time, I thought Curtis Main came on for Watkins, obviously, who'd done an excellent job up top, won the penalty, and overall, again, his hold-up play and linking in with Hedges and Wright was good, but Main kept that energy at the top of the pitch. So
Definitely.
it was good to see. But we were asked last week if the defeat against Hibs would mean that Aberdeen were out of the race for third place, so to speak. And I think, well, we just showed that maybe Hibs' promising start to the season was maybe not all that's been made up to be.
Well, that's their first proper sort of test, and they failed it. So I went no. I definitely think maybe it was probably a bit too early to say if we'd lost, it would have been like we're out of the race. But it wouldn't have been good given the fact we lost Rangers and then to lose to Hibs, the two our
Mm-hmm.
main tests, two competitors are really going to go with. Yeah, I don't think that would be good. But we were up to the test and sort of breezed through it. To be honest, it was very, very assured. I thought assured is the word I'm going with for the season. I think.
Yes, is that going to be that'll be your quote for the title of this
Oh yeah, probably.
podcast? But I mean, looking at games against Hibs, they're always close affairs. Again, that one was a close affair, but with it being a 1-0, I never really felt that we were under much threat. Apart from there was maybe the one occasion after about 40 seconds when Joe Lewis decided to spill the ball. But other than that, I was actually quite disappointed in Hibs, but I think that says a lot more about Aberdeen's performance than it does Hibs.
Yeah, definitely. I think we just limited them completely. As you did say, the Joe Lewis thing, I thought we're going to be absolutely in for a game of this. It's going to be squeaky bum time the whole match when that happened. But other than that, I don't really recall being very like on the edge of the seat, sort of panicking,
Mm-hmm.
worrying kind of thing. Yes, I thought they were limited very well, and they sort of three at the back, when McCrory and Ferguson in the middle as well. It was just very solid and sort of got through it without any real worries other than the Joe Lewis thing, which was possibly the most shocking thing. But fine by me.
Yeah, and then well, one thing obviously we spoke about, it was a 1-0, and you referenced, other teams getting annoyed at our style of play. But in fairness to us, we had chances in that first half. Brian Hedges in particular really should have done better with his chance, and probably went with the wrong foot and ended up, just going straight at the keeper. But I actually thought, in general, we were actually quite pleasing at times. What was your thoughts?
I never thought it was better than the previous games. I thought we are looking a little bit more fluidity to the play, and we are getting the ball down a bit more. It's a bit less long ball, possibly because Cosgrove's out. You don't know whether it'll maybe slip back in when he comes back in. But John, honestly, I thought the Hibs game, I saw people complaining like of other teams. One of them saying like, "Oh, I'd hate to have to pay to see that every week." But I thought that of all the games we played, that was so much better. I thought it was so much more fluid and.
Well, for the likes of us that do pay every week to see it, it says a lot when we're enjoying a performance like
I
that
know.
compared to what we're used to seeing. But it's three wins on the bounce in all competitions, and this weekend we make a return to Tawdry to face Kilmarnock, who've kind of been out of sorts this season themselves. But this weekend also sees the first of two test events with 300 fans being let into Tawdry, obviously social distancing and various other government guidelines to be followed. What's your thoughts on that introduction of fans into the stadium?
Well, I think obviously it needs to happen. There needs to be the test events. 300, it's not going to be anything in comparison to what they're eventually going to end up looking at. But they need to start small, I suppose. Got to start somewhere. And the next ones would be 750, I think.
Yeah.
Yeah, it needs to happen. I've applied for a ticket. I don't know whether if we do get the option to go, if I will go, because then you miss out. I saw this SLO saying that season ticket holders will only be able to go to one, and then they will be able to go again once every season ticket holder has been to one. So I don't know whether to maybe try hold out for a sort of better game with more fans or whatever, or to just, if I did get offered it, just to take it and just see what it was like, to be honest. I think, positive that the fact they're getting test events and slowly they can creep up. If after the 700 one, if they both go well, obviously, maybe we'll see something exceeding 1,000. Never know. Fingers crossed.
Yeah, I think you're spot on. I mean, we've got to start somewhere. Ultimately, the match day experience that's being put on offer, let's be honest, is terrible. Masks, no singing. I know Pataudry is not often one to have a lot of singing anyway before other people put that joke in. But in general, as well, the not allowed to leave once you're in, possibly held back after the game, just sounds very controlled, and it won't be enjoyable. But like yourself, I've also applied to see if I'm going to be successful, but I'm also kind of the same as you. Will I hold off for a so-called better game, or will I just go on and see what the experience is? But maybe you've spoken about the SLO, but maybe we can look into getting Lynn on, or someone like Rob Wicks on, and discuss how they felt the event goes and goes going forward. It would be good to hear their point of views, speaking to us, the fans, and not kind of scripted interviews with Red TV. So maybe that's something we can push to get.
Definitely, that's a good call. Yeah, definitely worth a shot.
But yeah, looking to the footballing side, Kilmarnock, they don't come into the game in a particularly good run of form, albeit they did win their last game 4-0 against Dundee United. Looking from the Aberdeen point of view, first of all, one question we were asked by Stuart Fisher was, our 3-4-3 formation, is that here to stay? Is that something you think we'll employ in this game?
I think they might stick with it, going by how the Hibs game went, because it just looked very solid, but we still allowed creative players like Wright and Hedges to break on. I think I was happy with it, and I'm especially happy with Kennedy and Hayes as the wing backs. I thought having them, because they are some ways, for example, if you had Niall McGinn in there, with no chance he's tracking back and all that, but they are two hard-working players. They'll bomb forward and get back all day long. I was very happy with the 3-4-3, and I thought the three centre-halves looked very good. And likewise, the centre-mids in front of them, Ferguson and McCrory, very good. I'd be happy to see us go with that going forward in the season, especially on Saturday.
Yeah, and I think one thing that Stuart also asked was if we didn't go with that formation, would we be happy to see Kennedy as the right wing back? And I'm in agreement with you, purely because he's got that desire to get back defensively as well. But I also think he offers us more than the likes of Hernandez. Okay, we haven't seen a lot of him, but certainly Logan in the attacking sense from a wing back's performance. which is encouraging. Similarly with Hayes, he's done a lot of defensive work in his time at Celtic, but we all know his capabilities in attack. So both of them at wing back has been a blessing. Obviously, we didn't have Ash Taylor in the Sunday against Hibs, so it'll be interesting to see if he fits back into the team. With the European game in mind, obviously McInnes has come out and said Hoban's only going to be playing one game a week for just now, so I'm interested to see if he puts Taylor in for Hoban and kind of uses Hoban for the European game. I personally wouldn't be too much against that, but I don't know about you.
I would be happy. No. I'm saying I'd be happy for Taylor to come in for the 2 league games either side of the European game.
Mm-hmm.
I think the European game is probably the priority at this stage to get through the Viking game as well. That would be massive. I think Hoban, obviously, it was always going to be sort of using him right now, because after being out for so long, the match fitness obviously isn't going to be there, and we don't want to push him too much and risk anything happening to him again, because if that happened, another one, then it's probably game over for him, to be honest. So I think that would be wise. And Taylor, he's not exactly your ball playing centre half, but no nonsense.
Yeah.
He does a fine job. He does fine. I'd say fine.
And one thing I saw before recording this podcast on Instagram was it looks to be that Sam Cosgrove has maybe returned to training. I know it's seen boots on, but just, going on that performance against Hibs, and hopefully, we've looked solid in our formation, kind of keeping the ball on the ground and attacking down the wings. Mm-hmm. Do you think we would keep that sort of style of play if Cosgrove came back in, or even, would you actually put Cosgrove straight back into this team?
Going by how Watkins been playing, okay, he hasn't scored, but he won the penalty, and his hold-up plays, link-up play has looked very good, to be fair. I wouldn't put Cosgrove in straight away. I don't think he'd probably be ready to go in straight away anyway. Obviously, he is back in training, but I would be very hesitant on putting him back in based on how we played against Hibs and how Watkins been playing, and he's linked up very well, slotted in very well. I'd be hesitant in putting him back in immediately. Obviously, it'll be good to have that option.
Yeah.
But from the bench, I think Sam
we can't just dismiss a striker of Cosgrove's abilities, for a team like ourselves. But again, it's good to have those options. We spoke last week about strength and depth, and obviously Cosgrove getting back to fitness will add to our squad. But looking towards the opposition, Kabambe's, he's finding his feet in Scotland, scoring goals, and you've also got Chris Burke, who's aging like a fine wine just now. So how do you think Kilmarnock will fare against us, and do you see them causing us problems?
Well, they were a lot better against Dundee United than they have been from what I've seen before that. I think Kabamba, definitely a handful, and Brophy came on, scored as well. Did a 2 sweet celebration. It was lovely. I don't know. They've got threats. I think the 3 we mentioned there: Kabamba, Burke, Brophy, especially. Well, they've signed Yusuf Malumbu as well. I don't know whether he'll be fit to go from the start. I know he came on against Dundee United. It won't be an easy tie, definitely not. It will probably be more like 2 games before Hibs than we saw. But I think I would again just take a simple, straightforward 1-0, get out of there. Honestly, I would.
Yeah, and I think obviously you've mentioned Brophy as well, but robbed of goal of the month, Rory McKenzie.
I know.
I think he's also a threat. In the game against Celtic that I watched Kilmarnock, and Kabembe's got pace as well as ability.
Yeah.
And Brophy's the same, McKenzie's the same. So, Kilmarnock are a dangerous side on attack with the pace, and at times pace is where we can be exposed to, depending obviously who we go with at centre back. But that could also be key with the wing backs of Kennedy and Hayes. We know they're blessed with pace to hopefully counter that. But one player I want to mention for Kilmarnock who's making his return to Pittodrie is, of course, Danny Rogers, possibly with a point to prove.
I'm worried in case it's a Scott Bain against us-esque performance, because other than the 7-0, he loved playing against us. He absolutely loved playing against us, and sometimes at the game of his life. I remember at Dens especially. I'm worried in case that is what happened with Danny Rogers, because he was around for absolutely ages. I always thought of him as like a young keeper, but he's like mid-20s now.
Yeah.
I think he definitely will have a point to prove, because he didn't really get much of a chance when Lewis got injured. He played a couple of games, and then Freddie Woodman came in. I definitely think he's probably got a point to prove, and it wouldn't surprise me if he had the game of his life, to be honest, on Saturday.
Yeah, I mean, I think he never really got a chance as such, but coming up against a keeper like Joe Lewis was always going to be hard to dislodge him. He was very impressive at Falkirk in his loan spells there. So, he had a dodgy start, some may say, to his Kilmarnock career, especially the first Celtic goal that he conceded. But, he's got that confidence of a clean sheet last week, so he'll be obviously keen to improve on that and continue that. But hopefully we can ruin his day in his return back to the northeast.
Oh, I hope so. I definitely hope so. But I'm a bit sceptical.
So, it's a good theme with the fixture this week is the former Kilmarnock player and current Aberdeen midfielder Craig Bryson. Been talks of him this week, terminating his contract with the club. What's your initial thoughts on that story?
It wouldn't surprise me, to be honest, if he did. It's just been absolutely plagued with injury because he missed out in the last and been in the squad against Hibs again because of injury. I can imagine he's on a healthy wage considering he came up from Derby County. It wouldn't surprise me, and I think it would. We are somehow blessed with a lot of players in centre midfield now, which is a position we've been a bit worried about before. I think it wouldn't be a terrible decision, and it wouldn't surprise me if they ended up back at Kilmarnock, to be honest.
I know it's linked in perfectly with this fixture, but I agree. It's I don't think a lot of us can deny when he first signed for the club, we were all delighted. A player of his caliber joining. Derby fans were absolutely gutted to see him leave. It just not worked out at all. Obviously, he's had his involvement in the Sole and plagued by injuries. He's never got going. He has scored this season, albeit in a closed-door friendly against Hibs, I think it was. But when it comes to the competitive action, sadly, it's just not been there. Although I will credit him for his part in the goal that Ryan Hedges scored against St Johnstone.
Oh yeah, definitely.
But I think, like you said, we're now blessed in midfield with youthful potential, but plenty of cover. So, given his wage, it probably will be best for both parties that they part ways. But that ties in nicely to a question that we've been asked by Michael Scott is, given Bryson's potential departure, what does that mean for Dean Campbell? Do you see him getting more chances to play, or maybe does he need to go out on loan to some, would it be Premiership, Championship? What would you say to that?
I don't know. I think everyone's always really keen when there's a young player coming through, local lad. He's not had the sort of chances he probably would have liked getting to his age now, 19, 20. So I think possibly a loan would have benefited him had Bryson stayed around. But now that he's not, I'm not sure whether they'll be keen to let him go. A sort of high-end Championship club might be good because then he's more likely to get a chance on the ball, play a bit of football. I'm not sure what club would be most beneficial for him. But also, if he goes to a bottom six sort of club in the Premiership, it might be the sort of toughening up that he needs. He has looked lightweight at times. I don't think there's any doubt that there is a player there, but it just needs that experience. I feel like he does, and bottom six club could give him sort of toughed up matches that he needs.
Yeah, I think I kind of agree with a lot of the points you've been making there, that if Bryson is to leave, I would kind of want to keep him. Just, we've got a lot of games potentially, depending how Europe goes, but a lot of games in a short space of time, so it's good to have those options covering tiredness and what have you. But if he was to go out on loan, I don't really see any of the Championship teams suiting him. I don't think Dundee would take him, purely they're looking at Charlie Adam, but I would, if he was going to Championship, I'd want him at the top end. So I would maybe be looking at possibly like a Ross County, a team that are often involved in tough games, and see how he fares there. But I do agree, probably needs to, bulk up a little bit. We've seen Lewis Ferguson, he's certainly bulked up. But yeah, there is a player in there, it just needs to come out. But I do find it harsh when people criticise his performance. It's difficult for young players, but difficult for all players. Hedges experienced this last season as well. coming off the bench for 10, 15 minutes, you can't make your mark on games. It's certainly, I think McInnes we sometimes just go back in and sit in for a 1-0 or something like that. So for the likes of Dean Campbell, when he comes on, it's hard to influence games in the position that he plays. But yeah, I think if Bryson goes, I'd rather he stayed.
Definitely. Well, that's a very good point you raised about Ferguson, because I thought as soon as Ferguson came in, he didn't look like an 18-year-old kid. He looked like a man, and sort of filled the shirt kind of thing.
Yeah.
But very good point again about Campbell. I saw something in the All or Nothing Spurs documentary. I don't know if you've maybe watched it. Danny Rose, before he went on loan to Newcastle, he was saying, how do you expect me to probably have a sort of man of the match, amazing performance when I come in once every 4 weeks? You can't build a run of games.
Yeah.
And even Campbell doesn't even get that. I wouldn't say, he wouldn't even get a start. Most of the time it's coming on 10 minutes to go to shoot up a sort of a game, and he doesn't get the chance to perhaps be more creative than he would be. It's just sort of do your job as a holding midfielder, sort of sit and protect the back four, Mr. Safe kind of thing. So I think, you definitely, now Bryson's gone, we need someone as sort of cover for centre midfielders, but at the same time, looking in the long term, for him to develop and to become the player we want him to be, he does have to be playing games, simple as, really.
I mean, he's highly rated at international level and through the younger level, so they see that potential there, so hopefully we can reap that benefits at club level. But speaking of young players, loans, development, Willie Beattie asked, given there's no under 20 games for the foreseeable, do we see any of those younger players going out on loan and getting crucial game time? Obviously, we've seen Mikko Virtanen and Michael Ruth join Arbroath this week. So is there any others that you might think go out on loan, or what benefit do you think those two going to Arbroath will have?
I think those two going and getting first team football. Of course, Mikko Virtanen was there last season at Arbroath, and going by social media, they sort of seem to rate him pretty highly.
I think he won the young player. I think he won their young player award, if memory serves.
I believe so. Yeah. So definitely, I think him going back to Arbroath and Michael Ruth joining him. Obviously, he signed a long-term contract as well, which tells you they're probably quite highly thought of. So definitely for those two going and playing every week would be beneficial. I think that's probably at a lower level than Dean Campbell will be looking at.
Yeah.
But maybe guys like Ethan Ross, Connor Barron as well, who are highly thought of up Tawdry, but obviously won't be playing even under 20s for the foreseeable future. It could be beneficial for them, even because Ethan Ross was at Dunfermline for a while.
Yeah,
so something like that.
I think that's been rumoured again. I've seen on Twitter that potentially him going back there. So again, I'd be happy for him to go back out on loan to Dunfermline. They've got ambitions for this season. The other one that's been noted, and I think he had a preview on Red TV, was the young left back Jack McKenzie. A natural left back. Imagine a natural left back at Aberdeen.
I'm getting excited.
Yeah, well, so I mean, if we're going to develop that sort of potential, maybe he's another player that might benefit from game time. I get he's only young, but they're young enough. Sometimes they're good enough as well. So get them out, get them the experience that they need, and we'll benefit in the long run.
Definitely. Yeah, well, he's been in match day squads, so they obviously think something of him, because otherwise they wouldn't put him in there if they didn't think he was ready for that. But yeah, definitely. And again, it could be, even though they are young, it could be the case of going and playing against men instead of boys, and that will toughen them up and benefit them for the future.
And I think that's what Michael Ruth's actually come out and said. He said, having that experience of playing against men week in, week out will toughen him up and only make him a better player. So I think we will see more loan deals coming in the next few weeks, maybe to allow us to get other players in if that's what we so desire. But I think that will certainly be something that will prove beneficial to us. And obviously, Arbroath being the one team just now, we seem to have a good link up with them, and hopefully we can exploit that for other young players and continue them getting the experience.
Definitely, yeah, definitely that'll be beneficial. So
I think we've covered most of the topics that we were aiming to in this podcast. Are you wanting to put a prediction on the weekend? weekend's game?
Other than Danny Rogers having the game of his life, I would take just a nice little. I'd take genuinely just a 1-0. Get out of the way. Another win, build up the form before Viking game.
Another
I'd
1-0
take that.
to get all the comments of the opposition fans saying, "How do
Oh
those
yeah,
people watch that every week?"
thoroughly enjoyable. It was. I do have a question for you though.
Oh
What's
yeah.
your favourite flavour of Angel Delight, Glen?
Something I have never actually tasted, so I won't be able to pass comment on that.
Oh, Lewis will be disappointed about that.
Yes, yes. Well,
I also am a fraud and I've never had it as well. I did think it was sort of something of maybe the older generation. I thought maybe you would have had, but I guess not. Sorry, Lewis.
only people with refined tastes. But my prediction for this weekend will be 2-1 Aberdeen, but also Alan Power to be booked because he can't help himself.
Oh yeah, that's always the case.
And thanks everyone for tuning in, and we'll be back next week reviewing the Kilmarnock game, also our European game against Viking, and looking forward to the clash against Motherwell, where maybe more of you can actually get into the stadium.
Never know. Now there we have it, folks. Thank you very much for watching this video. If you have enjoyed, please do hit the like button and subscribe for more of the same. And comment down below. Let us know your thoughts as well on the topics we covered. If you want to check out Glen or any of the 12th man stuff, they've got some pretty cool stuff going on over there. I'll leave the links in the description. Thank you very much for watching and take care.